Finally, starting an OSC campaign for a formerly 5th edition group. What level 1 module should they start with? Looking for something classic. All right, so this is definitely right up our alley. Let me, before I forget, gives a thumb up vote to our fellow Redditors. Let's see. I really want to start to get a very authentic feel for this campaign. This is, sorry, I should be mentioning this, the authors, and I forgot the Redditors. This one's posted a couple days ago by Bad Russell. They really want to get an authentic feel for this campaign, although I do have all the adventures from the OSC Advanced Kickstarter campaign. What is a good first campaign for a basic expert? Currently, I own Temple of Elemental Evil against the Slave Lords, Horror on the Hill, Keep on the Borderlands, and the Lost City. All right, my choice of those definitely would not be Temple of Elemental Evil. I'm assuming he owns one of the big ones and not just Hamlet. So I would immediately take out that one. I think I'd go with Keep on the Borderlands. That would be my pick. Elfbait says it makes a great seed. Absolutely. Keith also says Keep on the Borderlands. Yep, that would be my choice. My choice would be Keep on the Borderlands. Reason being, it's a little bit more forgiving than Horror on the Hill in terms of your ability to get back to a safe place. Not just a safe place, but somewhere you can resupply. Horror on the Hill. Oh, and I have read-throughs of both these on the channel. If you want to go cruise there and you're curious about them, I've gone through them extensively, practically room by room. But Horror on the Hill, you have a keep, much like Keep on the Borderlands, except you have to cross the river to get to where the adventuring area is, and it's hard to get back and forth. You kind of have to do some planning in advance if you plan to go back to, I think it's called Guido's Keep. If you plan to go back and forth to Guido's Keep, you really have to do some planning because you're separated from there by that river and you can't easily get across. And then there's a point in that adventure after which you cannot go back at all. So it's a little less forgiving, and it still has a lot of the freedom of exploration, and you can build up your own sort of plot, adventuring plots and kind of what's happening in the area and this and that. But it's a little bit less flexible and a little bit tougher, I think, on a new party than Keep on the Borderlands, which has the keep and it obviously has the Caves of Chaos, but you have mostly free travel back and forth. There's nothing really preventing you from getting back if you're in good enough health. So that would be my choice. You can also really introduce the idea of having different factions of creatures and using those languages that hopefully your players have with different of these creatures. You can do some of that bargaining and stuff. Horror on the Hill does have some of that element too, and has some interesting individual factions or creatures up there, but I would probably go with Keep on the Borderlands. It's been a while since I've worked against the Slave Lords. Is that one of the, I'm trying to think about, is that the one where they start off basically without anything and imprisoned? If that's that one, that makes a good first adventure because you just start off, you're in chains or you're in a cell, but also tough, right? Because they're starting off with nothing and they have to really think to get going. So some people might like that. Maybe for a new group, I don't know. I mean, they're coming from 5e, and I don't know what their 5e experiences are, so maybe that will work well for them or not so well, but I think I would go Keep on the Borderlands. Elfbait says, it already has a lot in it and plenty of room to add your own stuff. Absolutely. Classic Rando says, the Evils of Ilmire is a fantastic hex crawl for low levels. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Classic Rando says, it's also super easy to run. We've got Lonnie Tucker says, good review on both, by the way. Oh, thank you. And then we got Raid LC says, Tomb of the Serpent King is a good starter dungeon, but not classic. Then Keep. I think there's a Kickstarter product out there that's modern and fills out the Borderland. Could be mistaken. No, I think you're not mistaken, Raid LC. I believe there's Goodman Games and putting out these massive books that have the original adventure and then a whole bunch of newer material. But I think they're geared. The newer stuff they're putting in is geared for 5th edition. I think I don't own any of those big books. But I think the additional stuff they do is 5th edition. Not to say that you can't convert it back. I don't think it's all that hard to go back, especially if you're not really worried about the mechanics. It's more the lore, but I don't know if Bad Russell wants to do that. But all good advice. I like Tomb of the Serpent Kings as well. I did a video on that a long time ago. Also, you're right, it's not classic. It does have a lot of that intro stuff. I might use that as kind of my, say my funnel or a pre-adventure adventure to get them starting to think about old school play, because Tomb of the Serpent Kings I think is great for that. If you run it as a teaching adventure, I think it works very well like that. Whereas you get to keep on the Borderlands, and it's like you got to figure it all out yourself. So if these guys are from 5e and they really don't have a good sense of what is required of them in an OSR game, having that kind of as a pre-adventure, hey, let's play this part of session 0, part of session -1, and then get to the keep afterwards. That's definitely not a bad way to go. Let's see if the comments have anything interesting. Justicar7, nothing is more classic D&D than Keep on the Borderlands. That's true. Let's see. There's a 2-page dungeon they also recommend called The Cave of the Unknown. And then Epic Repair Time. Well, he also says, so sorry, Justicar7 also says about the keep. Oh, no, he's talking about the cave. But then Epic Repair Time replies, the hidden part of Keep on the Borderlands is that the keep is as much the objective as the caves. Look at how they stat every guard and inventory every spear. It's meant to be invaded. The caves are just where you get your army to take it. I don't know if I would say that that's just as much. But I don't know that I would, I guess I don't know that I would say that the hidden concept is to take the keep. Yeah, they're giving you all that stuff because they don't know what you might need, and potentially you could play around with, do the forces from the Caves of Chaos come to attack the keep. I don't know if they're suggesting that you're going to raise a whole army of bugbears and goblins and things and be able to take the keep yourself. But certainly that's a fun way to do, especially if you want to have it be more of a long-term thing. I would question how a couple of level 1 characters in that sort of setting were able to take control of a whole army and make a raid on the keep. But if it's a long-term game and the keep is something that you're gonna sustain in your campaign as a center of kind of things happening in this sort of, Borderlands area, then that certainly could come into play down the line. Sounds like a good game though, if you can swing away to turn the game from figuring out how to take down the caves to figuring out how to take down the keep. Elp8 says, Goodman Games did the retrospective for Keep on the Borderlands and expanded some of the content. Yep, that's what I thought. Someone adds Hamlet. Yeah, I wasn't sure when they said Temple of Elemental Evil, whether they meant Hamlet or not. Hamlet is another starting location. There's really not much, I don't remember there being much adventure there. There's the not the boathouse, what's it called? There's that outbuilding that's kind of on the edge of where you're supposed to then go beyond to get to the Temple of Elemental Evil. I don't know why I'm spacing. It's not a manor house. It's something. Someone in the chat will remember the name of it. It's not an outhouse that you can go to, but there's not a ton in there. But it does a good job of fleshing out the town because the keep gives you all this kind of stat stuff. And I think maybe they hadn't figured out how to do settlements yet because I don't think there's any names for anybody. It's just like guards, stuff. And then once you get to, say, Horror on the Hill, the keep has a name other than just the keep. And there are, I think, individuals. And certainly Hamlet has individuals and things about the people living there. Jackal says Gatehouse. Thank you. Or Moat House. Yeah, I think it's either, it's either the Moat House or the Gatehouse. One of those two. But thanks. Either way, yes. That's the name of the building. That has that nasty little spider encounter that can be a real eye-opener, I would think, from a 5e player perspective. All right, someone else mentions this other. I'll have to come back to this thread, check out some of these things that people are linking to. Mike's World, The Forsaken Wilderness Beyond, which I guess does some fleshing out of around Keep on the Borderlands. Someone likes The Lost City. The Lost City is good. I just think if this was their second or third campaign, I might say go for The Lost City. It is a little bit different, but you're kind of stuck there, and it may feel a little bit more, again, it's got a different kind of challenging level. It may just feel different because you don't have as many choices in terms of navigating the area, but you have a lot of choices in terms of the factions that you interact with, but they're sort of important choices. So you're not as free to kind of freelance without there being some negative consequences. So it's good. Certainly, I wouldn't say don't do it. But for their first game, I just think I want to do something that's kind of easing them in. And it seems like a lot of people have. Yeah, it's, I guess, the Moat House. Someone else, Thor2, brought up Hamlet and called out the Moat House. So either way, Gatehouse, Moat House, it's all good.